Alright, so today I wanted to talk about learning Thai. How I learned Thai to the level I learned it, and the top 3 tips I would give myself if I was relearning Thai to save months of struggle and to progress so much faster than I actually did.
ผมดูวิดีโอเกี่ยวกับธรรมชาติเพราะว่าผมรักธรรมชาติ
มีคำถามเกี่ยวกับคนใครไปทหารรู้สึกยังไงเกี่ยวกับนี้รู้สึกน่ากลัวรู้สึกดีรู้สึกขอโทษครับวันนี้ทำวิดีโอเกี่ยวกับฟุตบอลในประเทศไทยครับฟุตบอลอังกฤษเลยมีคำถามได้ไหมครับ
The first tip I'm going to give you is a little bit counterintuitive. Do not learn vocabulary. You're going to learn vocabulary later, but first you need to learn something very important, and that is pronunciation.
ไม่ถึงครึ่งกิโลใช่ไหมสองขีดไม่ถึงครึ่งกิโลใช่ไหมอ๋อ2 ขีดอันนี้
This is because the Thai language has 4 tones. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. We've got ma, which is come. You've got ma, which is dog. You've got ma, which is horse. You've got ma, which is like very much. You can just imagine how much you might possibly get wrong if you get these tones wrong. So, the first tip, like I said, is to learn pronunciation and reading. Now, how do you learn that? The best way to learn pronunciation is to get a book called Read Thai in 10 Days. I use this book myself, and you can read Thai in 10 days. I promise you that. If you download this book or you buy this book, you'll be able to read Thai in 10 days. Now, you won't be able to understand a thing in Thai, but you'll be able to read the letters and you'll be able to pronounce the tones. So that is the first thing I'd recommend, pronunciation. Then after pronunciation, you're going to want to get an app called Pimsleur. Now what Pimsleur will do is it will do 30 days of lessons. You could probably do it faster than 30 days if you really put your mind to it. And it will give you a basic sentence structure. So it will give you a basic understanding of, you know, sentence structure and things to say, where words go and things like that. Because Thai grammar can be a little bit confusing if you're coming from a Western language, especially English. We tend to use much more connecting words than Thai. If I wanted to give you an example, let's say I want to go travelling, right? That in English is I want to go travelling. There's a couple of connecting words. In Thai, you would just say "Ao Bat Hiel Kap," which is want go travelling. It's so simple that if you tried to translate it from English, you'd get confused. And there's been multiple times I've personally done that myself, and I would just totally scrap it. Don't bother learning grammar. If you get the grammar wrong, people will correct you, but they'll still be able to understand you.
Oh, สวัสดีครับ How are you ไปร้านอ๋อไม่ไปร้านออกมาเมื่อกี้ออกมาโอ้ไปไหนทำงานหยุดใช่ไหมอันนี้ไลฟ์สดป่ะใช่ทำวิดีโอเกี่ยวกับเรียนภาษาไทยครับถ่ายรูปใช่ไหมถ่ายรูป
จำได้ไหม
ใช่จำได้ตัดผมใช่จำได้ครับโอเคสวัสดีครับ
That's the guy who cuts my hair. Oh dear, I've been distracted. What was I saying? Grammar. Yeah, don't learn grammar. Pointless, waste of time. So, after you've learned how to read, you've learned a little bit of basic sentence structure with Pimsleur, you haven't bothered studying grammar too much, now you're going to want to start to learn vocabulary. But do not directly translate this vocabulary, because there are so many words in Thai that mean the same thing, but they're used in a different context. For example, you've got "hua," which is for. You've got "hai," which is give, but it can also be used as for. You've got "do," which can also be used as for as well. And you've got "samrap." So you've got 4 words, essentially, you could use for. And they can be used in different scenarios. So it's going to be a little bit confusing for the average person when they're typing into Google Translate a word for and multiple results come up. Just don't use it. Google Translate in general for Thai language is abysmal. For any Asian language, Google Translate is terrible. So how do you do the workaround? How do you learn vocabulary then? Well, one moment, I'm going to go this way and then I'll let you know. So I want to go to the park. To learn vocabulary, what you're going to do is you're going to download an app called Anki. Now, Anki is a spaced repetition flashcards app, right? But because you already know how to read and you already know how to pronounce Thai tones, you are not going to learn from English. I repeat, do not learn from English. Because there is something with language learning whereby if you learn in a situation or if you learn from pictures, your brain is much faster at being able to remember that, being able to pick it up, and in a situation, just being able to recall it. Your brain makes pathways from, I don't know what. I'm not an expert on it, but trust me, it works way better. Now, if you learn directly from your own language, let's say I wanted to learn apple, for instance, I'd be thinking, oh, what's the word for apple again? What's the word for apple again? What's the word? Oh, ebben. Ebben. You've got to go through a loophole, through another language, to be able to find that word. Whereas if you were to do pictures, for instance, so you download the app called Anki and you create your own flashcards. What you do is you put an apple on the front and then you put the Thai word on the back. And because you can read Thai, you can read ebben. And now you know that an apple in your mind is ebben. But you haven't had to use the jumping, the linking, the bridging of your own language. So your brain has to think less about it. And in certain situations, you'll just recall it. Now, once you've started learning vocabulary, you've got your deck, your Anki deck. You want to basically craft it to about 1,000 words with picture flashcards. And you want to get this from a native source. I will let you know the native source below. It's called Lingo Polo. I would actually do Anki alongside Lingo Polo because you have real, natural Thai people actually speaking the language, so you can pick up on the listening side as well. Now, once you've got that deck and you're on Lingo Polo, basically what you want to do is you just want to drill this deck for as long as it takes you to remember at least, let's say, 70% of it. Then after this, or while you're doing this, when you feel comfortable to do it, you want to start learning vocabulary in context. Now, this is extremely useful because if you remember what I said before about the grammar and about the direct translations, often direct translations are terrible on Google Translate, for instance, and the grammar just won't make sense if you translate it from your head. So you want to start learning how to use words in context because the word also might be different in that context. And the way you do this is you get the natural source like Lingo Polo or something, or you get a Thai-made deck in Anki, pay a little bit of money, or there's probably some free ones online too. And you put the picture on the front and then a sentence on the back in Thai. And because you can read Thai, you can read it. And you basically try and recall the sentence. And then what you're going to try and do as well after that is you're going to try and start utilizing that word in context when you're out and about, or whatever situation you're in when you're learning, you want to try and use it in that situation because you'll recall it a lot quicker. So, for instance, let's say the picture of a building came up. For instance, a building like this. And I was on the road in the park like this. How would I use that in context? Well, I would say something like, "Oh, ในสวนนี้มีตึกสูงมาก." So, in this park, there is a very tall building. There are very tall buildings. And there, I've used it in context. When I'm speaking again, I'll remember this situation and I'll think, oh yeah, I remember that, cool. And you just go straight. You don't have to translate in your head, you just go pure. Now, I've been using this method for a long time, and I've been using it specifically for Spanish, which I'll go over in just a moment. I don't want to get run over in the park. So like I said, I've been using this method. Now I've been trying 2 different methods to see which one works best. And realistically, I think the one that works best is learning vocabulary from pictures and then trying to use them in spoken context and trying to use them in the real world. That's the fastest way to learn, but you're probably going to mess up on your pronunciation and grammar if you do that. So I'd recommend doing that with Thai. Oh no, I'm going to get run over by the bike again. Not the bike, the van. Now the other method I've been using is comprehensible input. Now this is an input method whereby you listen to a certain number of hours before you speak. So I'm doing Spanish right now, and the certain number of hours that you listen to before you speak is 700 hours. I think I'm at 650. Now I was doing this for 5 hours a day for about 2 to 3 months. And after 2 to 3 months of 5 hours a day, I was literally, I shit you not, dreaming in Spanish. And funnily enough, the program is called Dreaming Spanish. And although I couldn't speak, I could understand materials that were way above my level. Now, what you're going to do if you want to learn quickly is not just use this method. This method is very good for learning how to naturally speak, but it takes a very, very long time. You've got to get to 700 hours. It's just so much. If you just want to go on an adventure and you want to learn a language really quickly, you can do so. And I think the best method for this personally is the flashcard method, along with using in context, and then also comprehensible input, as well as some speaking practice. So you want to cover all grounds. And if you do this kind of study for, let's say, 2 hours a day for 2 to 3 months, you will absolutely smash it. You will smash everybody else's progress in Thai. You'll come to Thailand and people will be like, oh,พูดเก่งมาก พูดเก่งมากเลย and they'll say stuff like, oh, พูดชัดมาก พูดชัดมากกว่าผม something like that. I think that's grammatically incorrect, but that basically means you speak smooth and you speak very well. And yeah, if you learn Thai, you will have a much better experience in the country. As soon as you speak a little bit of Thai and you can string a sentence together and you can say things, people open up. They are so respectful towards you for learning their language, because Farangs often don't learn the language. คนชาวต่างชาติ don't learn the language. So if you can converse with them, man, you're going to have such a wicked time here. Do vocab, do in context, do comprehensible input, and start trying to speak. I would maybe recommend trying to find someone on Hello Talk. You could do this for free if you offered them to teach them for an hour a day English, and then you swap and they teach you Thai. I did that, and that's how I met my 2 Thai friends here, who have been my friends for a very long while. And you know, we've bought each other presents and things and met each other multiple times, and yeah, it's been great. I'd recommend going on Hello Talk for that. You can do it for free. Don't bother purchasing lessons. Just message a ton of people with a copy and paste message. Say, I'm serious about learning language. I want to do an hour a day with someone who's serious about learning English. I will help you, you help me. And yeah, if you implement all these tips for 2 hours a day, maybe 3 hours a day for 6 months or 3 months, your level will vastly improve, and you will outrank any other Farang who has learned and come to Thailand, and it will open up a whole world of possibility for your travel here.